Hey, fellow tennis nerds. I hope all is well. Today we have a guest who is returning to the podcast. Very well beloved episode. He was on Carousel from My Tennis HQ. He's been winning more tournaments. He's been touring with Marcus Giron, and he's also done some collaboration with Felix from Tennis Brothers. So there's lots to talk about. And he even played tennis with Roger Federer, or table tennis. Sorry, that was
Table
close.
tennis.
That was close, but that's good enough. That's good enough. Whatever you do with Roger Federer, drinking wine, playing table tennis, whatever, it's awesome. How are you, man?
I'm good, man. How are you? Thanks for having me. It's always a good time talking to you.
Yeah, no, and that was pretty sick. Like you going to U.S. Open. There's an on event. Were you there as like an influencer, hitting partner? What was your role there in the event?
Influencer, just kind of randomly got an email a few weeks ago, like, hey, would you want to come to the event? We're going to have, they didn't say anything about Roger. They just said like Ben and Iga are going to do something. Like, it's kind of like the goal of the event was, which was really cool, was to sort of like, it was like at this big park in Brooklyn that, there's a lot of people who play tennis, and they're like, let's give them sort of like a pro treatment, ball kids and chair umpire and stuff like that, and have them like kind of have that the same feeling that as a pro. So it was a really cool event. So, went out there to kind of just film. That's what they asked. Like, make a vlog. Though it doesn't, there's no real guidelines. Just have a good time. Show the event, showcase the event. They gave us some gear and stuff, and then we had I don't know if you know Dylan from Dill Place.
Yep.
Plays. He has a channel. He was there. Noah Rubin was there. So we played some tennis. Had some of the kind of amateurs that were there like join us, play some doubles, and then Iga and Ben showed up and kind of play. Do the play with the people. Kind of do like a king of the court kind of situation. And Dylan and I played like a pretty fun point against them. Roger was there, and it was a really cool event. And then at the end of the night, like they had a space at a bar and table tennis. I end up like just like playing some ping pong with him. Like, he's such a good dude. Like, just always like, takes the time to take pictures, talk to people, blah, blah, blah. He's, Roger has a pool. At the moment he walked in, everyone stopped playing tennis. It was a really funny thing. Cause again, we didn't really know he was coming. So, like really, really fun event. Like, On really did a good job with that.
Yeah, they seem to be on their game, right? Like, that's really what I've seen in recent times, and also now they're bringing out the shoes for Iga before she played with the A6 and so on. And having Roger active, I think it's great for tennis, great for their brand. Of course, he's a co-owner of the company, as far as I know, or a big investor, but also that he's there. He's like Pete Sampras. Although we will love Pete, right? He kind of didn't want to go into tennis, and here we have Roger. He's kind of everywhere. He's like, he loves going on a plane, brings the family, comes with a smile, just enjoys the banter, just an easygoing guy, easy to talk to. Just awesome for tennis, I think.
Yeah, he just like he likes it. I think part of the reason he was so successful is because I think loved the tour, loved traveling, loved like meeting new people. Like, I think he loves the game of being a businessman and figuring it out. Like, it's not necessarily, I don't think about the money anymore, but like, can he make like cool stuff? He's just like a cool guy, and can he keep that going? And yeah, he's just so easygoing. And yeah, Pete, I've hit with Pete here, and Pete just like, he couldn't be more isolated from tennis, which again, I don't mind. I think I would be more that way than Roger. I think I wouldn't want to be doing like that much stuff, but he just loves it. And so it's good for us to keep seeing him. He looks good. He looks like, fresh, like, hasn't put any pounds or anything. So he's chilling.
Yeah, it's good. It's Michael Jordan of tennis, like the great ambassador of tennis, I think. That's the way we see it. He might not have the most numbers to his name, but that doesn't matter because he's like such an icon in the game, and nice to see him around for sure. So that must have been cool. Sometimes when I go to these, I've been to a few of these types of events, I feel like the players, some of them are just, they're happy to be there. Some are really more like introspective, and they don't really like to be at these events. And also it kind of disrupts their rhythm of play. Like, they have matches, they have practice, they have all the stuff to think about, and now they have also X number of commitments, photo shoots, pictures being taken, meeting fans, and so on. Did you sense that from like Ben or Iga or something like that? It was like, okay, I want to get out of here and start going to practice.
No, I think Iga, obviously she seems like she's like a little bit more shy, introverted than other people, but she was there. She had a good time. I think it's always like one of those when you put them to like maybe speak to a crowd and stuff like that, they might get a little nervous. But I think she Ben obviously. I mean, he always has a smile on his face, has a good time. Like he really is like a guy that I think if he continues to have some good results and even bigger results, I think people are really going to be drawn to him. Iga is she's just a little more introverted, but in a way, like she comes off very honest and very, very cool. It's like, so, I do think for certain players, it's just a difficult thing to do, like the all the commitments and stuff. And I don't know exactly how it is, but I think it's just kind of part of the game. So, if you're signing big, sponsorship deals and you have to do certain things like that, it's just the nature of the sport. And for those people that were there, they're gonna remember forever. Like that one rally that they had against them. Like that little doubles rally that they played against them. They're gonna be like, "Whoa! I played some tennis versus Iga versus Ben." So it's definitely. I agree. I've done a few of those. Some people seem like excited about it. Some people. I just think sometimes it depends on what the brand does. You know what I mean? Like if it's kind of I'm sorry, brands, but sometimes you do stupid stuff, like stuff that like it's just like, what are you really doing here? I mean, this was like people were playing tennis, it was outside, like everyone's having a good time, they got some product. Like it's just a simple thing that it's easy to I think integrate the athletes in. But if you take them to like an art show and they're having to talk about like it's just I've seen some stuff that I'm like, what are you even thinking here? Like that's just not gonna do any good for the business. If I'm a racket brand, I want people just touching the racket and playing with it and then playing with Novak or something. I don't know. I feel like that's how it go by it. So I think it really depends on the what the brand does too, on how the players react.
Yeah, I think it's pretty logical, really, because if you know tennis players, they like to play and be active and out and about, right? So they want to have a
Mm-hmm.
racket in their hand, even if it's like some kind of artsy, fartsy. It's a table tennis racket.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like a big exhibition. They play with big rackets, tiny rackets,
Mm-hmm.
whatever. But if you put them like as a speaker in front of a crowd, like there's guys that Federer and Novak, they can do really well, but most of them are pretty shy, maybe not really used to that. But if you like make them relaxed in the terms of kind of setting that they're used to, I mean, it makes more sense. But sometimes they do this weird stuff, and also for people watching or people interacting, there's if you're just listening to people, it's not fun, right? So you want to
Mm-hmm.
interact with them, even if it's just like saying hi or just hitting a few shots.
Yeah.
It's easy. It's pretty easy, I think. But sometimes I think they overthink. The brands want to come up with, oh, let's do this, and it's gonna be really cool, and it like follows our brand, and they overthink what they actually need to do to make it a
I
success.
agree. I agree. There's like a lot of overthinking about it, where it's like if you're an athletic wear brand, with the tennis clothes or tennis shoes, or if you're a racket brand or something like that, it's like it's very simple. Just keep it simple with that. Like make a really cool court or something like that. Like a court that has like I don't know, like come up with something. But yeah, give a racket to them and give people a racket, and they will remember it. Like just like maybe them showing up and talking, it doesn't really do anything. So, but they seem pretty excited, and everyone was like, Roger is obviously I think really excited about having both of them, part of On, and the CEO of On was there. It was like the whole thing was actually really cool.
Yeah, sounds great. And Ben Shelton is kind of like Alcaraz of the States, right? Like a little bit. Like his playing style, quite explosive, good movement, good physique. Is that how you would call it? Like he's pretty good talent for the. I mean, you have so many players now. It's insane in the States, right?
Yeah, America is like it's a tricky thing, right? Like you have like I think so many players now doing well between Tommy and Taylor and Francis, like who one of them typically does well, and Ben is a little bit behind that. I still think after that Australian Open run, he struggled a little bit with some of the results and still kind of figure out the playing style because he's such a big explosive guy. Like he's kind of like Carlos, but not really. I mean, he can it's almost like it's more power, right? It's more like I think Carlos has a bit more of like that Federer kind of but that kind of swagger and finesse where Ben can just even the racket on his hand like kind of looks a little small. But I think like as he kind of like I think he's starting to play a little more aggressive, come in a lot, and with his serve and he's always has a smile on his face. I think that's the main thing, like that you can compare with Carlos, right? Like him and Carlos just kind of like play with like almost like a childlike joy. And so like he just like draws a crowd. I mean, he won yesterday. I was watching, everyone was like, having a good time. He was playing Pedro, and it wasn't like necessarily the best match I think he's played, but all of a sudden he caught fire and he was hitting winners everywhere. I was like, Jesus Christ, like, how do you weather this? And he can get to the net so quickly. He's really big. He's a big guy, not necessarily just tall, but he's wide. He's just a wide dude. So I think if he can slowly but surely like put it together, like what's the game style, like a little bit. He still feels like he's a bit all over the place with in terms of, I wouldn't say tactically, but like shot selection, things like that. He can be a little all over the place. But once he puts that together, I think if he does make some big runs, he can be a really popular player here in America. Obviously, right now he's young, he's the new thing, and but he puts together a few runs. I think he'll be really popular.
Yeah, and he's exciting, and I really agree with the smile. That's kind of where I found the most like. I mean, he's a muscly guy, like he's a strong guy, but I think that having that positive energy on the court resonates so well with the crowd. Like you see that with Francis and certain players, like that it's so much easier to interact with them than others. I mean, it's something. It's so close to the personality you can't really fake it because then it looks like inauthentic, right? But I think in his case, it's just he's enjoying himself on the court, and that wins, usually,
Yeah,
right?
there's a few guys who I think are like that. It can be like, I know like even for myself, like when I played, for me to find a zone wasn't necessarily like be like like crazy focused on the court. Like, I'm playing college, I'm watching in between points, I'm watching like a point of my, my teammate, and he wins the point. I'm like, yes, and that's firing me up, and I'm playing, or like I hit a good shot, and I'm like, there's something that sometimes like again, like I feel the childlike feeling when I hit a shot that is like, I know that was a difficult shot, and I look at someone, I was like, you saw that, right? That was difficult. Then so I always like to interact with like crowds and stuff because I find that entertaining. It takes maybe that just the tension out of it a little bit. But for some people that doesn't work. I think for Ben and Carlos and even like Nick, when he's like having a good time, he interacts with the crowd, and I think people like that. Francis, he hits shots that he's like, whoa, like that was. Did you see that? Like that was tough. So I enjoy players that do that. That they understand that what they just did is hard. It's hard. Like we can do it a lot of times, but it's hard. And I'm also impressed that I did it like myself. It's like the Steph, right? Steph, when he like in his warm ups, he's doing like the crazy boom shots or from the stands or stuff like that. He's just having a good time. And people like it just kind of enjoy it when they see someone enjoying what they're doing. I think it's always a draw. So obviously, I think Roger, Rafa, Novak were never really like that, but they were just too good. So there was no way, no way around it, really.
Yeah, I think yeah, it maybe change if you have huge success quickly, maybe you have to adjust, but in Carlos it comes naturally. So even if he's very successful,
Mm-hmm.
he often looks kind of like a kid at the crowd, like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
you saw that? Like I hit like a 200 mile per hour winner and down down the line. Like, well, who thought I'd do that?
Yeah,
So
he looks at the Juan Carlos and he's like,
yeah, yeah.
it's hilarious. So I think there's something so pure about what he does that way, that I think Ben has it, and Francis has it. Like I used to, Francis is like an interesting case for me because Francis is a guy that I don't like his strokes, like forehand and serve, like they're like weird looking and almost like so unconventional that you're like, whoa. But now more and more that I've been around, like sort of, I've seen him smack Marcos a couple times, which is he just kind of like I think has like a good read of Marcos's game. It's always tough. It's always tough, playing him. And in general, like I just kind of get it now. I get like I mean he's very unconventional, but he's gotten a lot better. And that forehand side has gotten a little more compact. He takes the ball really early. He likes to like do weird stuff. Second serve, like little bunts come in, put a volley away. He has great hands. So like I've now like kind of like actually enjoy watching him play because he's such a good reader of the game. I think Francis that is actually exciting watching him play. Guys might be bombing the ball, but he's able to like redirect it and like play like slow and fast, and he controls the tempo of the match in a very like. I think it just comes natural to him, but it's very like very high level, high tennis IQ, and so now that I really enjoy like just his style, even though like aesthetically might not look as good. It's a really good game. So yeah, I think guys like that they're naturally going to draw in eyeballs, versus there's guys who are the Zverevs of the world. I think they're unbelievable tennis player, but they're not really that exciting to watch. It's like I think the comparison I'd have, like I respect the shit out of like a guy like Federer, but like I was never a guy that I wanted to like really stop and watch. It's tough. It's tough because like there are great players that sort of fall through the cracks a little bit because people don't really find that exciting to watch. But it's just kind of the nature of the sport.
Yeah, I think it's nature of most sport. Like it's like you have your
Mm-hmm.
favorites for whatever reason, close to your style, just like their energy, don't
Yeah.
like their energy, whatnot, But like the same with Ferrer, for example, like you cannot not respect his work ethic. His tennis strategy is pretty good. Like never, no unforced errors hardly sometimes. But it's not gonna make you so excited to watch tennis. Like it's
No.
just how it is. There's no way around it. Yeah. If you have exactly his style, maybe you are like super inspired to, kind of emulate the way he kind of cuts down the errors and just keeps the guy under pressure. But to kind of sell tickets and TV streams, no, maybe not the
Yeah,
most
it's
exciting.
tough. It's a really tough thing. It's a really tough part of the sport, and there's no way around it, right? You're not going to tell Ferrer to be more flashy. It's like, no, I want to win. It's like Casper. Casper wins. Like he wins when he's like in form. He wins matches, and might not be the most exciting thing, but he does his meat and potatoes really well. If you do your meat and potatoes really well, you're going to win a lot of matches. And there's just some guys that their meat and potatoes is a bit more out there, and that's just kind of the way it is. So. But yeah, there's a lot of good players doing, good stuff. But you need the mix of both. So can't just have everyone just kind of playing like a clown out there too.
No, no, I think that maybe you take away some of the lure of it. Like you need the kind of contrast, even if like I find
Hmm.
Zverev pretty dull to watch. But like if you put in a Francis against him or someone else, that creates a contrast of style that makes it more
Hmm.
engaging. Maybe if you have Francis and like Monfils, maybe it's too clowny, right? Like it might be
Too
like
clowny,
okay,
exactly.
they're gonna do like one point where they just hit tweeners, right? It's like
Yeah, exactly. No, I exactly that. Like that contrast is really interesting. A guy who just kind of, a Zverev, a Rublev, guys like that, and then you have Francis just doing weird stuff and coming in and playing like a funky game, and that's what makes it fun. That's why Roger and Rafa was always the fun. The fun, even like Rafa and Novak have had so many good matches, like long good matches, but I did find them repetitive at some point when it was just them playing. It was like always the same point. It was always the same point. They kind of played the same point over and over and over and over and over. And it was just like a bit like dull. I was like, okay, I kind of get what's going to happen. Like Rafa's going to try to play to the back end. Novak became so good at hitting that back end down the line or just blazing across. And it was just kind of like the same pattern over and over. And whoever was kind of like ready to die more that day would win. And that was kind of what it was, which was great. But, after like too many of them, I was like, we need something different here.
yeah, the interesting part about that, like I agree what you're saying, like is that you understand the athleticism needed, like the amazing skill and talent and physique. You just need to kind of grind out 5 hour 5 set match, right? Like they could play endless rallies, like 40 shots, 50 shots. I don't know. If you
Mm-hmm.
look at the history of their like 40 matches or whatever they've played on the ATP tour. But like you say, like they are so consistent and so kind of baseline driven that you're gonna have repetition of points. And watching it for 4 to 5 hours, I mean, obviously, if you're a huge tennis fan, it's a treat for some. But even for me, who is a proper tennis nerd, it can get too long, right? And then like you'd rather
Mm-hmm.
see a shorter format or something where you try to mix it up, or you want to see like a kind of at least a clash of contrasting styles, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, when Rogers sort of kind of had that little resurgence there at the end, 2017. I mean, that was my favorite Roger of all time. Like just taking everything early, the backing on the rise, and just like kind of playing like a menace out there. And it's so hard to do. And I think people like just because he makes it look so easy, people don't really understand how hard it is to play that aggressive, that consistently. Like just win tournaments playing that aggressive. You see dudes like on tour who play that aggressive and they win a 500 a year, but they also like lose, 13 first rounds in the year, and Roger like just playing like an absolute lunatic, taking balls on the rise and coming in and doing crazy stuff. And even the best defenders in the world are just kind of like struggling with it. So yeah, it's a we kind of need that, but we have that. So it's just kind of the way it is. It just need. And unfortunately, Nick like hasn't been like healthy and stuff, but there's a good amount of dudes doing that, and still though the top 10 dominated by guys kind of doing the boring stuff very well at the end of the day. So that's kind of still the formula to win more, I'd say. But um, you know, it's what we want as fans versus what they want as players.
Yeah. It's like the defensive game is going to have more success on the statistic level. Like any kind of statistician you talk to, then there are obviously guys who be like, oh, a tennis point shouldn't be more than 4 shots because you have to, like, if you look at the statistics, blah, 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 blah. But it's hard to see it like that when you're seeing that the unforced errors draw, like that paints the picture of the match, right? That is really like
Yeah.
what wins for the guy who makes the least of them, right? Generally speaking.
Yeah, I mean, it's like the thing, like obviously O'Shannessy is about that, and I'm like, yeah, it's gonna work. But, one time that Dustin Brown is like crazy hot, and he wasn't gonna win from the back anyways, and he does it and he wins it. But like in general, that's gonna happen 1 out of 20 times, and it's just the reality of it. Like very few people can sustain that level of aggression for Novak. If he's playing a highly aggressive dude on a best of 5 sets, I mean you have to be on like Stan Wawrinka to beat him. Otherwise, you're just not going to. And that's just kind of the nature of it. And obviously, if you have a big serve and you're winning some free points, and then you're playing a little bit more of that style, might work. But it's tough. I think the guy who someone that can blend both styles a little bit higher, like in a higher level. Really high level serving and volleying and stuff like that, but also really high level baselining. It's going to be sort of like, I think, someone that can really dominate tennis. Obviously aside from Carlos, I think Carlos does a good job actually already coming in and doing all that and staying a little bit more less predictable. But in general, yeah, like someone that can be like Daniil, 6'6", serve unbelievably well, but also like come in and do all that stuff, but then do the Daniil thing and grind and all that. So that's going to be an interesting, like, who's going to kind of like find that. It's going to be an interesting thing.
Yeah, for sure. So U.S. Open, you have your player Marcos there. Who's his first round opponent?
He lost yesterday actually to
Okay.
Fokina. Yeah, he played I think early yesterday. Fokina's been playing well. Just kind of a tough matchup. To be honest, like. And when Fokina is on, I think he's like one of the best players in the world. So, if you can't keep it close, if you allow him to be a front runner, it's tough. And I was actually like coaching yesterday during the match, but I watched some of the first set, and he got an early break, and it's just tough. The guy just like once he's up, he's tough. When it's close, we've seen him do some mental stupid stuff. But if you allow him to just like front run, I mean, he'd just beat I think he'd beat JJ like 6-0, 6-2 or something like that. I mean, if he's on like that, it's tough. So, unfortunately, kind of like a tough first round, but it is what it is, just part of the game.
Yeah, winning a match in a Grand Slam or ATP 1000, whatever, it's like so hard. Like the
Yeah.
draw is always stacked, so there's always going to be a dangerous guy. And Fokina, when like you said, he's a little bit of like he needs to be in form, but if he's in form, he's so dangerous for even Novak or
Mm-hmm.
whoever, that it's kind of hard to read him. Like it's a little bit looks like it's emotional. I mean, he's from here, from Malaga, so I've seen him practice here, but it's like if he's in the zone, feeling it, enjoying it, he's so dangerous. He's so dynamic with the footwork, and yeah, great player.
Yeah, he takes the ball early, I think. I mean, I truly enjoy watching him play tennis. I think he's like so good. Like he's also like a very strong guy. Like he's just a wide dude. And he just like swings that racket so easily that yeah, I mean he's a tough out. So yeah, if he's in form, watch out. It's just like once he can get his like head together, I can see him being like easily a top 10 player.
Yeah, for sure. So who do you have now? Like in the draw, what do you think? Who do you think will win? And do you have any like dark horse predictions for the U.S. Open?
Not really dark horses, to be honest. I find it hard to believe that it's not going to be maybe a Carlos Novak final. It's a weird thing because Novak, like, for all the slams that he's won, he's only won 3 U.S. Opens, and he's lost a lot of finals at the Open and stuff. So I don't know like who's really like in that much form to take them out aside from maybe like the usual suspects. Like, I think Daniil can maybe is not gonna have like that much, coverage on him, and he might just like sneak his way there. I think he like obviously enjoys playing there, but aside from that, I don't really have any dark horses. I think we're just kind of gonna see a pretty maybe like one or two like make some runs to quarters or semis, but I think in terms of winning, I think it's going to be the usual guys.
Yeah, I agree. Well, that was
You?
my prediction at least. But then
Yeah.
I had also Holger Rune maybe doing better than he did, but he went out to Carvalho Baena, which was a
Yeah,
shock to
that
me,
was
really.
weird. That was
Yeah.
weird. Yeah.
I mean, he's a steady guy, but like beating a Rune on a hard court, like seeded four, I was surprised.
Yeah, Runa he's been a little off right now. I think mentally just been a little off, to be honest.
Yeah, that happens. Like tennis is like that, right? And we
Yeah.
talking about being mentally off. Like we had also, I don't know if you saw that, but team he beat Bublik, and Bublik is a funny guy to watch. Like he plays
Hmm.
like like Curious, but from Kazakhstan. I usually call him right, but
Hmm.
he said like I always help these disabled players win or
I saw
something.
that. I saw that. I was like, this guy. Oh man. Yeah,
Be
he
Russian,
is.
but that's easily translated for people who are Russian.
Oh, that's easy. There's so many Russian people that are gonna get that. That's so funny, man. Like that. I mean, he's just you just never know what you're gonna get from him. I feel like right there in Wimbledon, he was playing so well. I was like, this guy can make like finals if he just swings out like that freely. But at some point he just loses it mentally, and just I guess it's just part of his thing now. There's no like, oh, like if he can put together, it's like not really. Like that's just who he is, and it is what it is. But yeah, there's some good stuff going on. I don't know exactly really who, obviously TT, I think actually had a pretty good win against Milos first round, but yeah, I don't know. I just don't really see. I mean, I'd like to see maybe like one of these American guys do some damage and see, because it's always good for the sport when an American guy has a run like Francis yesterday, last year. So let's hope something like that happens.
Yeah, let's hope so. So your own tennis then, like you're doing coaching, but you're also playing still like some UTRs. You had like a great run last time we talked. We won like 4 in a row or something, and you
Mm-hmm.
recently won another one, right?
Yeah,
So
I
what's
did.
up
I
with your
did a
tennis?
couple weeks ago. Yeah, so obviously when I'm not with Marcos, I'm trying to like, play a little bit, compete a little bit. It's just part of it. I think it's, you kind of miss the mental battle of it, of like going on court and, you're feeling tired, you're feeling this and that, and maybe not playing that well. When you're removed from it is a lot more entertaining than when you're like doing it every week, week in, week out. Obviously, you see people just like really fall apart. It's a tough sport that way. But when you're playing like once every month or 6 weeks, you're playing an event, you're just like foaming at the mouth to go do it. And so I went out and played them one more PTT. They have a lot of them here in Newport Beach, like basically once a month or almost like twice a month. They have it here in Newport Beach, and just 45 minutes away. It's an easy thing, you drive, play, come back home. So I just played another one. I think it was 2 or 3 weeks ago. And kind of that's probably my easiest one. Like I played some really good ball. Like didn't really have like a set. I think Harden 6-4, didn't lose a set. It was like a really really solid tournament. I think I beat a guy who was like 900 in the world, and in the finals I beat a guy who's been actually playing some good ball and taking some names out. So yeah, trying to. I want to again go play a future or something. It's been hard for me to get into a future because the qualities are smaller. Obviously traveling far away and not knowing if you're going to get in is tough. But I want to go just kind of get a point or two because when I'm with Marcos, I can sign in I don't know, alternates and stuff and on site if you have a point. But in terms of like personally, I do want to like try to like climb up the ranking. I just get 1 point, but like really, I don't think I have that many. I don't have that many more years left of like playing really at a high level. Probably, hopefully, the next 5 years I can play some really really good tennis. And so if I could get back to like I think I think personally like I always when I was playing I sort of like was a bit soft about challengers. Like I was a really good future player. I was winning 80% of my matches almost in futures. But when I played the few challengers that I played back in the day, the draws was a little smaller, so you only got in like at like the 300s, so it was hard to get in. And every time I got in one, I was just like, oh, I'm playing a challenger, and I got kind of tight about it. And nowadays, I'm just kind of like, could I just go play at that level again and just not be soft about it, just kind of like, embrace it that, the level is a little bit higher, but like take my time and figure it out. And that kind of all goes back to like, can I mentally embrace that part? I think in terms of talent level, I can stay with most players at that level. I wouldn't have an issue, but mentally you have to be on it. And I think after many years of being around Marcus, being around Naomi, and seeing that higher level, and how even at that level everyone's kind of mentally struggling a little bit. You can catch guys in bad days and stuff like that. So I'm like, I'd like to challenge myself into getting into that position, putting myself in that position again. I'm not too worried necessarily about a final ranking, but I'm worried about pushing myself to a place where maybe I didn't fully commit to like before. So that's kind of where I'm at. It's been this weird sort of comeback this year. I started playing just a couple events for fun, and I realized, I'm playing this well. I'm playing this more calmly. I'm playing this even if you're just playing a PTT event, you never want to lose. And I felt mentally a lot stronger, and that made everything so much simpler, right? Like win or lose doesn't matter in that way. It's more like, can you like allow yourself to like let go and play? And that's been kind of the fun part this year. Obviously winning a lot, it helps you with the mentality, but in general, that's kind of where I'm at, and hopefully I can start making a few runs.
Yeah, I mean, like, I think it's also partly you're matured, obviously, because this was a few years
Yeah.
ago. Like, we had a pandemic. You built like a YouTube channel. Big congrats on 100K subs,
Thank
and
you.
you're doing well with My Tennis HQ. Do you think that takes a little bit of pressure away from it? So, like, you have the maturity and now you have less pressure, so you can just go and enjoy instead of like being, okay, shit, I have to eat hot dogs for the rest of the month because I have no
Yeah.
money, right?
Yeah. Yeah. There's definitely a part of it. Like I think with My Tennis HQ, if I was just kind of coaching here and just doing what I was doing for a long time, um, I don't know if I would make that transition, because you obviously, as you get older, you also like you're living a little different lifestyle. Like you have a dog, you have like more expenses. You're not living a struggling athlete life anymore. That's at least like where I'm at. I'm not balling out, but I'm like in a fine place when I'm coaching with Tennis HQ with everything. And so I think the idea of playing, yes, it's part of, we have this thing with Tennis HQ. I think a lot of people would want to see what happens if I were to play, because I'm still playing some good tennis, and that takes a little bit of the pressure. It adds a little pressure in terms of like what Felix is doing with Tennis Brothers. I think that's definitely pressure. I mean, you're putting a result out there for thousands of people to watch. It's a difficult thing. You're not just kind of like crawling and hopefully getting an ATP point, but it I think that mentality, or that I think I've had so much experience ever since like COVID, because I kind of wasn't able to play really past COVID, but I've had so much experience around like top athletes and around other stuff. So there's a lot more experience in terms of that and seeing that, and plus like my own, because you want to figure it out, like how to make this a little bit simpler, a little bit easier for people as well. Like in my mind, it's like, man, everyone that comes to me for lessons is like, I'm doing this, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, man, you're overthinking this. Holy crap, you're overthinking this. Like, let's pump the brakes down. Let's allow yourself to like just play tennis, right? And that mentality, seeing that those mistakes happening in juniors, pros, 45-year-old man, like it's all the same mistake. And eventually you're just like, I can't make that same mistake. I just can't do it. Like you have to not do it. And so like I've been playing those matches with that sort of like mentality. Like you almost learn more from seeing the mistakes than anything. So the maturity for me, I think maturity level was definitely slow. I think a lot of people are more mature early on in terms of their approach with the mental side of tennis and their all-in investment into that sport. For me, it took a longer time, but now I think having what we have, and I enjoy that story. It's a good story, you know, like not many people get the chance of doing this and maybe showcasing to the following that I have. So, you know, something, you know, might come out of it. So I just kind of want to do that and see where it goes.
And I think also there's a sense of like having no regrets, right? So you have this point,
Mm-hmm.
like you know, your body is not getting younger. You're still fresh. You're still winning matches. You also have like really positive results. You have experience of being top 400. So it's like the longer you wait, the you know the less of a chance you have. Like that's for everyone, right? So that's just how time works. So I think it's makes a lot of sense. And what you pointed out, which I think is 100% true, I think Felix puts a lot of pressure on himself, but it's worse for him than it would be for you in this sense because he's not really shown himself of being like already a you know a high ranked player. So he's really going from scratch. He's a very young guy. He's going from scratch, trying to you know show everyone, and he's doing a great job with the editing and with the stuff. But it's probably adding a little bit of an extra pressure that you have that Mount Everest of winning one ATP point. You're putting it out
Oh
there
my
like I need
God.
to win one.
It's
You know.
it's tough, man. It's funny because when I was playing, I kind of did what he was doing for a hot second. I wasn't doing YouTube. I was doing it on Instagram, and I would just do this like 1 minute, like little like recap videos and stuff like that, and like trying to get content and whatnot. And that was sort of like towards the end of, not the end of my career, but like kind of like there in the middle. And I realized that I was just like almost like too worried about it. Like, did I get the content? Did I did this? Did I did that? And I was like doing like well. I was like in the 400s, and I was like, I can't think about this at that moment. I couldn't really think about this. You know, like it wasn't something that I could do. Nowadays, I think I would be able to handle it a little bit better. But yeah, man, it's pressure. I mean, just getting that one ATP point, or if I'm gonna go play, and it's a different story, you know, playing here versus going and actually traveling to, you know, Tunisia and having to play, and you know, you're spending a good amount of money to get there, and it's a different story. So there's a lot of, you know, self-inflicted pressure that you can add. But again, it goes back to hopefully trying to mentally rise above it. And I think that's something that I've spoken to Felix, you know, because I know how tough this is. I mean, obviously the YouTube is probably allowing him to financially continue to pursue it because it's a difficult thing to do. So it has its pros and cons, but definitely like, you know, you have to be like really mentally on it to even have a shot at again, not being top 100, but like being, you know, accomplishing the small goals that you got. So it's tough.
Do you think also because you're older than Felix, for example, that you'd handle any kind of trolls better? I don't know how he's dealing with trolls. I mean, he's supposed to come on here as well, and he gets a lot of love. But obviously, there's guys who's gonna sit there and be nasty because you know how it is. But I think like the way when I talked to you first time, it's like you have a pretty level-headed, you know, good attitude around like you dealing with YouTube, working, being a tennis player, being a tennis coach, and all that stuff, right?
Yeah, it's definitely a tricky thing. I mean, we get a lot of, you know, it happens even on my lessons, you know, I think from 98% of the comments are always going to be positive, and then you read the one that is like, just like annoying, and that's the one that sticks with you, and you shouldn't. And it's just kind of part of it. I think Felix, you know, as far as I talk to him, he says like doesn't really try to read too many of the comments and just kind of does his work. And I was like that because he is actually like a really passionate kid, and I think he takes it more to heart than maybe he should. But it's just the nature of his, you know, he's young and he's gonna figure that out. But yeah, I'm a bit older, so you know, I'm again the if I'm doing this and I'm playing and I'm challenging myself to do that and whatever. If I'm gonna post, obviously I'm gonna share the story, but the challenges versus myself, and that's kind of what I'm gonna have to remind myself. It's like I'm not doing this for, you know, the cloud or my tennis HQ. I do obviously think it's going to be a fun thing. I might go a little bit different route in terms because I'm gonna maintain an instructional content, but it would be more like, here's what I'm training for this situation. Here's the strategy. Here's how I'm actually going to sort of like try to open like the curtains on that and be like, I'm going to like, here, my forehand is shit right now. Like, I'm going to figure this out. You know what I mean? It's like, so I'm still going to maintain more of like a relatable content instead, like instructional content versus maybe what Felix does, as I go do this. And so I just want to like kind of share it and share it with people that like, honestly, like I think the experience, like what people don't really get, that the experience of playing and the mental challenges, the physical challenges, they're all kind of similar at every level. Like what a 4 or 5 feels, right before playing a tournament, it's kind of the same as we feel as well. It's not that much different. Like it's human nature. So just trying to figure that part out. But yeah, there's a little extra pressure or whatnot. But I think nowadays, like again, like I said, time is running out in terms of like really high level tennis. So why not just have a good time?
Yeah, of course. And I think that would be great content. Like I discussed it with Nicola from Intuitive Tennis the other day, where like he said, because he follows some metrics, and he says like, okay, coaching on YouTube is so like heavily saturated, right? Like he's also a very good coach, pretty good player as well, right? But it's like now people are so into watching kind of match play. It's similar to what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
Winston does that like with his more challenges, but the bigger stakes is obviously if you're playing pro level and you can show match play from your matches. Like I think even when
Mm-hmm.
people want to play my senior, ITF play, they want to see that, like because they want to have the matches. Like that's what they want to see. Like the coaching stuff is important, but it needs to be so good or so from a different point of view now that you don't like bang the same door as everyone has done before, kind of.
It really is. I often like I'm just on the couch at night and I'm thinking about that. I'm just like I like how you sustain this. Like he been obviously Nicola has been doing for like a long time. There's the guys, the British guys from Top Tennis Training has been doing, Ian, and they've been doing it for a long time. At some point, you just kind of run out of like coaching. You know what I mean? Like this is kind of what it is, and so like I think the matches have given me a little more perspective on here's what something that like has been happening during matches that like I actually think it's going to relate to people. You know what I mean? Like I recently did a lesson with Winston, which is kind of about shot selection, things like that. And I just did one about like beating a pusher, which was kind of like the guy pusher, pusher. More that's for the algorithm pusher, but like just playing like someone that like is highly consistent, that I just had to like really focus at the end of that at that tournament, because he's been beating dudes. Like he beat a guy who's 600 in the world in that tournament. I was like, I have to like play. I have to show up in this one, and I came in like actually very prepared and like kind of dismantled him, and so like can I show that? I think that's the that's the thing that I can still do while playing, where like if you just do like how to hit topspin on the forehand and stuff like that. I mean, there's a billion ways, there's a billion styles of doing it. Like it's just, and it's also not as it's for me, I'm just not like as like passionate about that thing, because I just find that like we all kind of figure out how to play a little different, but like can we, I don't know. Can we just like have the discussions of like how you see the court versus I see the court versus how you see the court versus how you see the court? It's like it's an interesting. That's kind of that part of tennis that I find very interesting. So I'm sort of trying to share like my eyes that way, my brain that way. And I'm not saying it's the right way. It's just kind of the way I go by it. So yeah, it's a tricky world, because I don't want to reinvent the wheel, right? I don't want to be like here's the like this revolutionary way of hitting a forehand or a backhand. It's just not really, that's never gonna really stick. Like what are you gonna say to Daniil? Like change your forehand, add more spin to it? Like no, just do what you do. I actually was just listening to a podcast with this woman from Scotland, who's like she's a world champion thing in triathlon and stuff, and she's like the she was like, when it comes to like my training and stuff, I've always been curious on how to find like creative ways to train and creative ways to she's like the best performers in the world in their sport, that actually they go against maybe what is the like the norm. They're curious about it. They learn how to play the game their own way and a little bit different. I think that level of curiosity, it's what allows them to like maybe do things that like no one has ever done. So I was like, yeah, that's something that I find to be very. When she was saying that, I was like, yeah, that's kind of like even myself. That's how I look at tennis. It's like, how can I, with what I got, be unbelievably effective, right? And I think that's what we see the top guys be like. Guys that play a bit different. Roger, as much as he was unbelievably perfect playing. It was a different way of playing tennis. It was aggressive, but he had like slow and fast and coming in, and he sort of figured that way. And so that's a part of tennis that I find it so unique and entertaining.
Yeah, I think the battleground of tennis, like I mean the UFC with the net, right? It's like
Mm-hmm.
that feeling of like how do you conduct yourself inside the ring or whatever with the arena, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
how do you beat the other guy or the other girl if you're playing WTA or whatever? It's like that's the key. How do you find that key within yourself or within the match play or the strategy or the tactics? How do you adjust your game? And then it becomes more about that than like how do I hit with more topspin? Like hopefully you are able to like adjust like whether you hit with more topspin or less topspin or you're slicing every shot or you're doing whatever. But you have to find a way to beat the other player, and that's one of the best things about tennis, in my opinion. Is like when you have guys with different strokes. Like we talked about Tiafoe's strokes, they're not the prettiest. Like we've seen that. Daniil's strokes not the prettiest, but so efficient, right? Like they're finding a
So
way to
efficient.
work with what they have, right? That's the key.
Yeah. They get the ball from point A to point B the way they want, the way they imagine, right? They visualize like I gotta hit it that way, a certain way, and they just do it. And even if it's a funky way of doing it, they do it. And I totally agree. It's like like in a match, for example, it's like noticing when your opponent like going through like a phase where they can't find the chord. You know what I mean? It might not last long, but like in that moment when you sense that, can you actually not get tight about it? And it's like I'm gonna play actually just some safe deep balls and let him implode for a little bit, right? Like and you or sensing the opposite. It's like this dude's it's getting hot. I need to do something like a bit different. And so like those like in on the fly like adjustments, they might not be like an amateur player might never be able to do it at the level that maybe I do or a higher level player does, but at least he's going to get it. And that's sort of like what I want to share. It's like, here's the complicated part of all this. You know what I mean? Like when we see pro players making bad mistakes or making a bad decision, you're like, why doesn't he just put the ball back? He could make 100 balls in a row, but that wouldn't take him anywhere because the other dude is just too good and he's going to be putting the ball in places where so they have to take certain calculated risks and stuff like that. So that's kind of like how I want to like share tennis in a way, like on the channel, and as we kind of go forward and go along, and maybe I'm playing and stuff like that, because I think that that's something that maybe traditional media hasn't been able to do as well, and I think we kind of have that opportunity to do it here. So that's kind of like what I find the joy in I think now what I do with Tennis HQ.
Yeah, and it's a unique way of seeing something we've never been able to see before, where someone actually can, share organically, authentically, right? Like it's something. It's not like I mean, you can talk about break point, good or bad, but it's very manicured, right? So you're not
Yeah,
getting,
it's
even if you're getting behind the scenes, you're getting manicured behind the scenes, well edited
mm-hmm,
stuff. Obviously, YouTubers edit their own videos, but still, it's raw, right? It's very raw
mm-hmm.
content. So I think that's what people gravitate towards. Like it's raw to the point. It's just no fancy editing techniques or
No
no,
producer, no
no,
like
no.
someone saying what to say here, like or like fabricated, like it's like, oh, let's all meet here for lunch and discuss this, and it's just like, oh, okay, like we're gonna have the cameras and we're gonna talk about like this stuff. I think that's a really difficult thing to do, and it's just the nature of like produced show content versus what we just kind of do on YouTube, and we're able to have that like freedom to do it, and we can do literally whatever, and some things work, some things don't. But you yourself with your channel, you probably like want to try something maybe outside of reviewing a racket, and that might not do as well, like we talked about it, but you just want to do it. You know what I mean? Like I love like making a vlog here and there, but like they don't do as well, but I kind of like to do it. You know what I mean? It's like I'm doing a vlog now for the on event, and I'm looking for music and what's the vibe that I want to do. It's a whole different like process, right? It's not my like lesson structure, but it's fun, and so like it's I'm kind of thankful that we're able to do that stuff because I'm not necessarily the most creative guy, and that's with the camera, it's the one place that I feel like I'm creative, being photography or videography and stuff like that. And so, the worlds kind of collide, and you can hopefully come up with something that engages people well.
Yeah, and I think it's like you should never only get stuck in one. Like I'm reading this book about from Naval Ravikant, who was like a really smart, investor and stuff. And he's talking about like the dangers of getting, even if you're seeing success, of just repeating your patterns because they bring you success. Okay, in tennis, maybe that makes sense if you're David Ferrer. And we talked about that before. But if we talk about life in general, like in business and things, it's like if you keep doing the same things because it brings you the same like decent results, you're never really growing as a person. So you have to take, that's a calculated risk. You're saying, hey, I'm going to do a vlog. I might get half the views if I do how to beat the 4-5, with no
Mm-hmm.
serve, that's going to get more views, but you have to do it for you, right? And that's how you
Yeah.
improve. And then maybe the 50th time you do it, it's going to be great. And you're going to reach
Yeah.
a new audience. So you have to take these risks in life. Otherwise, what's the point, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's like a tricky thing because I always, I wonder, it's like, what am I going to be posting in like 10 years? And I was like, if I'm going to keep doing this for a long time, it's like, I don't even know what I'm going to be posting, but it's just, I think that stuff, I'm trying myself to like learn how to just sort of like let the universe take over and let it like whatever in the moment, like what do we have to do? We have to do. I wasn't planning on making any of this content where I'm playing matches, I'm talking about the matches or stuff like that. I wasn't planning on doing really. And obviously the channel has evolved a lot through the years, but it just kind of happens organically. So I try not to like worry too much about that. Like, will I still have any like lessons, or will I still be even relevant, in 5 to 10 years because, it's just the way it is. Like people, move on to other stuff. The only thing I don't want to do is just become like, you know, YouTubers in general. They just do more and more. Like I filled a pool with a million pebbles and stuff like that. It's like stuff like that is just like, I don't want to get to that point like in tennis where it's just like you're starting to do just like it's stupid stuff really just to like get more views. I'd rather have like fewer views, but get the content that I guess I enjoy doing it. But like what that content is going to be, you just kind of slowly but surely evolve and figure it out, and other like different things like pop up in life that, oh, this is going to be good content, this could be interesting. You never know, you know what I mean? Like you could be doing more interviews, all of a sudden you're sitting with Federer in an interview and you're just like, whoa, how did I even get here? But you got here. And so it's just kind of things like that. So I think we have this like kind of platform to do that stuff and stay creative, so why not?
Yeah, I think the evolution is like it's your personal evolution, like it's your channel. So you have to kind of, this is a freedom, it's a pressure as well, but it's a freedom. Like, and the freedom is that you can actually take it places without like someone telling you, hey man, the advertisers hate this, or you're not gonna get like any clicks, so we don't gonna upload this. Like, so you're actually your own boss. You can make stupid mistakes, but it's technically fine. Like, and I
Yeah.
think that's good. And I think it's funny you pointed that out. It's something I've been seeing as well. It's like, because there's some YouTubers I follow, like this Ryan Trahan is really like a good, like really earthy guy, super like he's a funny guy. He does this penny challenge and whatnot, and Mr. Beast obviously, but he has to go like
Oh,
he's
the penny guy. I survived with the penny.
yeah,
I never watched his videos, but I seen it. It's like that. That sounds crazy, but like it's a good idea, Like, and he's able to
he
like
makes
trade
great
up. Is
videos.
that what he does?
Yeah, yeah.
That's
No, he has
crazy.
loads of other videos, but it's just his way of narrating his story, and he doesn't do like he makes small ideas and he makes them in a small way. I would say like the penny thing is a bit crazy, but it's not that crazy, and he's kind of awkwardly interacting with people, and it's like just who he is, and I think it's great. I
Hmm.
think he really does a great job. But then you have Mr. Beast on the other end, which like has to now pump 100 million in production money every year or more just to have these massive things because it's huge stakes, brands. He's the biggest YouTuber, and like it just goes crazy. And then you see like the copycats who's trying to be like, I tried to freeze myself in a tank and I almost died. I mean, like how far someone's gonna take it too far and they're gonna die in making a YouTube video.
Yeah.
Like it's
You
just
see that
gets
one
stupid.
dude that crashed his own plane?
No, I didn't see that.
There was a YouTuber. I think he was like a pilot, like just small airplane pilot, and he would do a lot of like flights and stuff like that, like videos, and he pretended that his plane was like had an issue, like a little plane, and he like crashed it. So he like jumped out of the plane and let the plane crash, and then people kind of figured it out that it was BS, and now he's being like prosecuted. And I was like, dude, like that, like, what do you think is going to happen? You know what I mean? It's like, that's crazy. You can't just crash a plane into like, I think it was in California, actually, in the woods here in California somewhere. I was like, man, like that's nuts, you know? Like, so people do like take it to another level. And you know, that's just not necessarily, I think, the route I would ever want to go. Definitely like, try some fun stuff, but you know, still kind of keep it kind of chill.
Yeah, yeah, people have to like with TikTok and stuff. Like people have to follow these trends. Like I read about that there was a trend that you're cracking an egg on your kid's head, and it's like I saw one video I think, and I was like, and someone like kid was really offended like by this. Like
Yeah.
it's not like the mother was laughing, you know. Okay, it could be funny one time, but then it becomes a trend, and doctors had to intervene and say, hey, this is stupid. I'm like, nobody should like everybody should understand this is
Yeah.
stupid. This is insane behavior, right? But yeah, it's a trend, so let's go
It's
for
a
do it.
shame. It's tough. Yeah.
Yeah, it's tough. No, so
Tough
when we
world.
talked before we jumped on about how YouTubers hurt tennis, there was one guy who had talked about that. Like, do you think there's a case for that? Like, YouTubers in what term? Like coaching YouTubers or?
Yeah, I think influencers. I think so. Like for people that don't know, like I don't even want to talk about like the person's podcast. I don't even know. Like I honestly don't even know the name, to be honest. But it was a guy here actually that I know in LA, and he made this like very passionate like 20-minute speech about like how influencers, because he kind of coaches a little bit here as well, and he's like like, you know, people just go on Instagram and they see a trend or see something, and then the next day they come and, you know, like they think that's gonna like change their game, and it's a problem, and blah blah blah. And he sort of like pointed out a few people, and then he like sort of like singled me out at some point and talked about like that one back end video that I say, hey, you have to put a bit more right side on that double-handed backhand. And you know, and I get it, it was a controversial kind of video because I didn't fully explain how to do it, and then eventually I did like a video that I explained a little bit better. But it just sort of singled me out on that, and it was kind of like the influencer police. And I was like, you know, bro, like one, I know you, like what are you doing? And like I'm obviously gonna hear about it. And two, like I understand the point you're trying to make, but like I agree that there's a lot of stuff out there that I see a lot of stuff. I've seen this one account online nowadays. This one guy just talking about mental games and how to get in the zone and blah blah blah. You see the players like when they're hitting like this, they're in the zone, and it's like how they achieve this. I'm like, yeah, like I agree with everything you said, but like I've also seen you hit some balls here and you literally don't know how to play tennis. So it's just kind of like, are you just trying to do this to create some clout now, and because you've seen like, oh, there's an avenue here for me to make money, right? And I get it, like it's just kind of part of the sport, but I never really like, I'm not going to comment on the guy's thing and just like make it like a big deal. It's just, it is what it is. Like people are going to consume the content, and there's good stuff and there's bad stuff for sure. I personally believe in that sort of like, I don't think you need to be like an amazing player, but I think you have to be able to like, look, if you telling me like to do these mental things to play well, like I would like for you to have dealt with those things, right? Like you've played matches, you've done that stuff. So I don't necessarily agree with what he said, but I agree that I think a lot of the problem is not necessarily the influencers, but it is how people are consuming that information. I do think nowadays, like more amateur players, people that are trying to get better, they're taking like an approach of like, it's almost like they're taking a test to learning tennis. They want to learn. They have all this information. I think Ian Westerman, they actually made a great video about this, but they have all this information. The information is there. They know like nothing that I coach like hasn't been coached. I'm not really reinventing anything. And they think if they memorize that information, they will be able to perform. And that's just so not the truth. Like your brain doesn't hit the ball, your body hits the ball. I think sport is a lot more about feeling, about understanding like what the ball is going to do if I do this, if I do that. Like, you know, there's all sorts of things that is like are, you know, unconscious. You know, good tennis, you're playing unconscious. It's like the inner game of tennis. I have it here with me, right? Like the inner game of tennis, like literally the best thing ever, literally
Yeah,
the best book ever, right? Like and I recently reread it. I had listened to it, but I reread it. Someone gave me the hard copy, and I was like, oh my god, like what a like what are we doing? Like I sometimes feel guilty about it. I'm teaching online, and I'm like, am I like part of this problem that people just like are getting filled with information, and then they think because they know the information they're able to perform. It's like, again, like taking a test, but the reality is just not that. So I think that's the tricky part that I don't know how to like navigate, but I know it is tough. I don't know what do you think about that?
I think it's like that. I mean, like nowadays in the world, it's like there's so much information everywhere, right? Like I'm reading loads of books, at the moment. I always try to improve something in my life, right? Like improve my diet, try to improve my sleeping habits, whatever, just to feel better and be a better human. That's
Mm-hmm.
generally the purpose. And also business stuff, like how to, run a business better. And the information, you have to always find a way to absorb the information, because like you can see someone can tell me like, oh, you should hit your forehand more like this and you'll have more oomph on it. I cannot learn it myself. Like I cannot go and just do it, obviously. So I need to absorb. I mean, they're same with life lesson. If I read a really good quote and I'm like, oh yeah, this, I should unclutter my mind and be more present in the moment. That does not work unless you practice it, right? And unless you
Mm-hmm.
actually have a way to absorb the information. It's just information. It's just there on the screen. Like if you're not really actually doing something with it, it's not going to do anything, right? So I think it's also a little bit of a less is more. So I think, like I talked to someone about this. Is like maybe you pick one or two or three whatever coaches, online coaches, physical coach if you have one, and you listen to those guys or girls. You don't need like 65 different sources of information, right? So if you believe like, okay, Karue, he seems to know what he's doing. He's a high level player. He has a great way of teaching. You listen to you look at what you are saying. Maybe you like Nicola, you look at that. Maybe you like Mike Babel, you look at that. So you have a little bit of like, you get a bit of a rounded way of doing the information. But I think a lot of people just go and they go on like YouTube overload and go like, look, watch 400 videos and one information is here and one information is there. And if you would maybe look at their technique, it would be more of a fundamental flaw. Like, but you're not moving your feet, so you can never hit a backhand the way Karue says, because if you're not positioned properly, it's never
Mm-hmm.
going to be there. You have to first understand that. Otherwise, there's no way of integrating this information. So I think, and also a lot of people are like deluding themselves a bit. Like they think they're better than they are, or they think they have maybe more what it takes than they actually have. So I think that self introspection at first is good, but then also then not overload yourself with information, because it's too much, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think like a part of it too is like sort of like trying to find the information that maybe like overlaps across the people, right? Like maybe I'm telling here's something about this, I'm telling something about this, and for example, I've been listening to. I actually like enjoy listening to like extreme athletes, like how they manage stuff. I just listened to this Rich Roll podcast with Kai Lenny, who was just like, I mean, he's the best wave surfer. He's doing big wave surfer. He's doing crazy stuff in big waves. Like he's not just riding them. He's like almost like riding it like it's snowboard, like trying to like do tricks and stuff. And this, he's putting it all on the line. Like if he makes a mistake, he's putting it all on the line. But he's talking about his process and his training. And when he's in that wave, I was able to just like visualize his line and let it go basically of those fears, because he trusts his process. And you see, I hear that from him, but you hear that from another book, and you hear that from the inner game of tennis. You get something like that, and you get something from a different athlete, different podcast. And I'm like, oh, like all that information boils down to basically this, right? Like that like sort of let go, allow yourself to. I saw this clip of this golfer yesterday, I think, and she says the hardest part that I haven't figured out about golfing, and I think this is for any sport, is I need to care a lot about golf to be able to train every day and put in the work and just even when I don't want it to, I need to care a lot. But then the moment Thursday comes in, I need to stop caring. And when I tee off, I need to stop caring and just play. And just like, yes, that's it. Like we don't like no one really knows how to do that all the time, but that's kind of how we need to get there. So like when I'm taking that information in, it's always about like, oh, here this information is kind of overlapping here, especially with mental stuff and all that. So how can I actually then implement that to my own game? Like for example, like Well, I've been doing something very, very interesting recently, which is, obviously I made a few modifications on technique on my forehand, but it's gotten so natural and that I'm not really thinking about it anymore. But what I've always had on my backhand side was visualization. Like someone hit to my backhand and there wasn't any thought of technique. There was just like, you quickly, like almost like flash, what do you need to do with the ball? And you just do it, right? And the body just does it. It's like, again, the inner game of tennis kind of. You just see it and you do it, and I'm not thinking about it. It's just the outcome is going to happen. And if it doesn't happen, I'll figure it out on the next shot. But on my forehand side, it never was that. It was always like, I got to do this, got to do that, got to, just think about all this stuff. And then recently, right before that tournament, I was training. I was like, I'm going to try this because I want to find these ways of getting into flow state, of just playing tennis freely, right? And I was going to literally call it out loud. Like I'm going to say it, like what shot I'm hitting. I'm hitting a cross court with high spin, like through the court down the line, taking it early through, like backing up and playing middle. Like I was just calling it and calling it and calling. And at first it's kind of tough, but then I found myself just like literally couldn't miss. I was like, holy crap. Like here it is. How I'm getting that ball there doesn't matter. I'm just getting it because I'm seeing and I'm just doing it. And I was like, oh, there it is. There's something that like really has made, obviously I'm at a higher level, so I don't have to really think about technique that much, but it really freed me to play at an even higher level, right? And I was doing during the tournament, and then it came to tournament, I was like, can I do this when I'm feeling it? I'm feeling pressure, whatever. And I started doing it, and it worked. I wasn't calling it out loud. I was calling kind of in my head. I was just like, I literally just say like, chill, like there's nothing to do with this ball. Just chill cross. And then like just kind of worked out. And eliminated a lot of like my typical mistakes, the ones that I tried to take early and I hit into the net. It eliminated a lot of that. And so again, going back to sort of the original question, it's like, it's a difficult thing to find. Maybe I never know what's right, what's wrong. I don't know if I'm saying it's right or wrong, but what's going to be right for the person. And I think people just, again, like you said, like they're a bit too hopeful with like finding that one source of information that it's like, this is it. This is how I'm going to play better tennis. Like I'm going to skip all the work, and with that information, I'm going to play well. And that's just not the reality of it. So that's the tricky part. But I don't agree that we're like making a, like what the guy said, like that we're fucking up the sport. Like I think that's an idiotic thing. If anything, we're creating more popularity in the sport. So.
Yeah, and it's also a great resource. Like you're giving out content for free. Like it's there's helpful stuff. I think it's more on the user end, right? Like you can't expect to passively watch stuff and just be better, right? Like you need to actively do anything you do in life. You need to actively go through some pain of some kind, whether it's boredom, hard work, to get anything, right? Like just improving in tennis. It's one of the toughest sports. I mean, that's why we're seeing this pickleball increase, because the improvement ladder is so easy to walk up, right? Like you, from level 1 to level 10, it's much easier than you might have. Level 20, 30 gets harder, but in tennis, that ladder is so much longer. It's more steep. It's a much tougher sport. So I think people partly have to give themselves a little bit of more, time, but they also need to give themselves a slap on the ass and say, hey, I actually need to work. I can't just watch Karue 4 videos and do it. You have to take one shot at a time. I have to improve my serve because that's breaking down when I play my club matches, and it's becoming a head trauma for me to have to go home and be like, why did I do 10 double faults in a doubles match, right? So that's where you have to, okay, I have to go out with a bucket of balls twice a week now for 2 months, and we'll see what happens, right? That's it.
Exactly.
It's
Exactly. And then you like, kind of like what the inner game of tennis says, like you go out and you just like try to figure it out. Basically, you let the body is like, here, I'm giving you this task. How do you do? I'm going to focus on just my toss. I'm going to focus on my rhythm. I'm going to focus on, how, the sound of the ball, whatever it is. Allow yourself to experiment without judgment, right? And that's the trickiest part in sports. Like I've said it before, but like I get it because I do that in golf. I spent, I'd say like a year, like really filming my stroke, my swing, and like trying to find this tips and tricks and blah, blah, blah. And I was playing still decent golf, but recently I've been a lot better, like a lot better in golf, basically because I stopped really like looking at my swing and I just been focusing on the feel, like feels, finding the right motion, finding the right tempo, things like that. and just good visualization. Like every time I'm step on top of the ball, I'm not like I'm like, oh, there's water on the right, like don't hit right, don't hit right, and then I'm just like, nope, just do your swing, your tempo, and whatever happens happens. But if you do it well, like it's gonna go straight, and it's been going straighter. So it's an interesting thing that way, that where like with the overload of information, I found some great stuff for my golf online, like great, like tripping stuff, putting stuff, like managing the course stuff, like really, really good stuff. But I try not to like over consume it, because then I'm not figuring out myself how to play that game, right? And I think that's something that I think amateurs need to do a little bit more, like consume the content, but like then take that message in, and then like really like figure out how can you add it to your game, right? Like if you're, maybe I'm not very risk adverse, I don't like attacking and missing a lot, and that doesn't do it for me. I'm more conservative in my life in general, with my investments, with like anything. Some people are gamblers, they like to just high risk high reward. So like how can you actually take some of the information that you get and utilize that to maybe your personality traits, your physical attributes, all those things. Like playing tennis, I think a lot of people, the way they play tennis is like your mental part of it. Like, are you conservative? Are you high risk? Like in general, how you are in your life and your physical attributes, right? Like, are you a fast twitch person? Are you a tall, lanky person with like a lot of leverage? Are you just like slow and fat, like short and maybe fast around the court, and that's why you became more of a grinder? Those are all things that like actually it's not really a choice. You just kind of play with because of what you have, like that way. I don't play with a lot of spin because I don't really have fast twitch. Like it's not that. Like for me, it's tempo and rhythm and stuff like that. That's what I understand. That's my brain gets. My golf too, like same thing. Like my swing, I hit the ball pretty long, but it's like not very fast swing. It's like a nice smooth motion. It's just the way I play. So like you got to find that, and you got to utilize the resource that we provide to find that for yourself.
Yeah, I think that's great words. Amen to that. Like, and I think it's also
Yeah.
so much feel based. Like, if you need to feel like the way you hit the ball, that it's like you have an idea in your head how it's going to end up. I think that's like what you put there is very smart in a way, because sport in general, like if you're playing with a ball, like you golf, tennis, whatever, it's feel based. Like I play guitar. Like for me, I played guitar for many years, but when I'm trying to learn new things, it's about feeling it and hearing it and like
Mm-hmm.
understanding it. That's the way you absorb it, like into the body more. You can't really go and just read it or do it like very, very more kind of mathematical way. You have to just go and like try to be with that learning that you're trying to do, and then give it
Yeah.
time, and then hopefully.
Yeah. Unless
um
you have that mathematical brain. I think some people have that really like mathematical, like kind of style brain, and that's okay. Like, like in learning like an instrument, like for me, guitar was always like, I always wanted to play the guitar. I was found that everything was just kind of so like the process to not be like as enjoyable. So like I couldn't really do it, and I'm not feeling it. I'm thinking too much about where my fingers are and all that stuff. But I think I've been telling my girlfriend I want to get like a set of like electric drums and learn how to drum, because I think I can feel beat better. Like I can feel a beat, and I think I'd be able to actually like execute that a little bit better because I can feel it better. But again, some people are more mathematical, more theoretical that way, and that's fine. But then again, utilize that information and absorb that to how your brain works that way, and how your body functions as well.
yeah, it boils down kind of to self understanding yourself, like understanding how you learn things, and have a long look at yourself and seeing what do I need to improve most, maybe priority one, priority two, and also always having fun. Like I think like we said that as well, like it's so important to have fun. Like if you're playing guitar and it feels like a grind, I mean, you're not a professional guitar player, so why should it feel like a grind? The same for
Mm-hmm.
me, tennis. I'm not a professional tennis player, so I really have fun when I'm learning tennis. But for some player, it
Yeah.
might feel like, oh, I just want to play points. Okay, that's we're all different, right? But it's a way how you attack certain things, right? And I wanted to get to that. Like you have a collaboration with your buddy Clay Thompson, also a very good player, called MPROOV. Like it's actually like a training app if I understand it correctly, where you pick out the best content in tennis. There's also chess I saw, which makes me happy because I'm a former chess player. It's great. You have chess on the platform. I know he's a very good YouTuber, and you have tennis, and I guess you will bring more stuff. So that's one way of integrating learning content there, right? And I'll put a
Yeah,
link
so
in the description for everyone.
awesome. Yeah, MPROOV basically it started as Clay has been working on this for a long time. He was a former teammate of mine at UCLA. Also, like I think 400 in the world at some point, and the platform is basically it's a self-improvement platform. So as it started, we only have the My Tennis HQ tennis school, chess school, and I think there's a pickleball school now. But the idea is for the app to have anything. Like if you want to learn about archery, there's going to be a school there. Or if you want to learn about dating, there's going to be a school there. Whatever it is going to be, we are sort of like the first couple of schools in there. And basically, how the app works is you sign up for the school that you want. So like My Tennis HQ school is there, and you're going to have like a self-assessment sort of process in the beginning, forehand, back. It's all the categories of the self-assessment I picked. So it's forehand, back, and ground stroke, consistency, like all this stuff, mental side of the game, blah blah. And you're going to give yourself the rating 1 to 100, and then you're going to have this little avatar that basically the algorithm is going to, based on your ratings, give you like 4 priorities. So let's say like it's serve +1, it's ground strokes, it's mental, and it's consistency, right? Like those are the 4 priorities that you have. And when you click on those priorities, you're going to have curated content to help with that. So all the content in the school is handpicked by me, like me, Clay, together we picked it's content from me, but it's content from a ton of creators. Like it's not just video, but there's articles, there's podcasts that we enjoy, there's like all sorts of stuff that we believe is important. Like there's a lot of footwork stuff in there, because I think that's a really important part for tennis players. Like a few smaller creators that I kind of find like that they're doing good job with that, exercises, things like that. So it's all curated stuff for your own personal needs at the moment. And as you kind of, and the idea is to gamify it a little bit. So it's every time you do an action item, they're called action items. So it's watching a video or reading an article or whatever it is, you get points, and there's a leaderboard. It's kind of like a really fun thing. And we're trying to do like giveaways or shout outs or things like that for the people who are in the top of the leaderboard. Recently I gave like a return course that I had already done. I gave it to the top 10 players that of that month. So they received like a personal thing, because I can give them action items myself. I'm pretty engaged in it. I'm looking at what people are doing. I myself, because I see some stuff that sometimes was maybe Clay that picked, and I'm like, oh, that was a really great article, or a really great read. So it's a fun way to basically like hopefully remove the junk, because it kind of goes to what we were saying, like are we doing a disservice to players or not? But I think if you trust my eyes, if you like what I say on the channel, if you believe what I'm telling you and when I'm coaching you, this kind of removes a little bit of that doubt of, I just watched something and it looked like it was good, but was it good? You know what I mean? And so on MPROOV, you're going to be able to like sort of feel safe that at least what you're watching was vetted by me, and it's content that I believe. Now, is it right or wrong? I can't really tell you, but there's like 3,000 or 4,000 action items already. So there's stuff like you can consume a lot, and again, there's some older stuff, like some great like articles that maybe we miss nowadays in the video content, but some great articles down there and things like that. So that's what we're doing with MPROOV. It's a really cheap like subscription. I think $4.99 or $3.99, something like that, to be able to fully utilize the entire platform and getting your action items and all that. And I think part of it too, as it is kind of small right now, like we're taking a lot of input from users and trying to improve the platform as we go as well. So it's kind of like a joint, I think a joint like venture, really, like trying to get it better. So, everyone that signs up really like, all the feedback is important to us, and we're making the necessary adjustments as we go. And yeah, it's been a kind of like a fun thing, and we just started, and we hope to get more people there in the school.
Great. No, I tried it. It's very cool, and I think it's good that you curate like and you bring in older stuff, because I think the internet now. I read some studies about that. Like everybody has this extreme recency bias where you just watch. I think maybe younger generations tougher, maybe because you're used to this like new content all the time. So you only watch like recent stuff. You don't go back, like, because things are moving so fast. There's so many hours and minutes of new content every day, right? So and if you follow like 15 creators or 40 creators or whatever, you're going to have content keep coming, right? But you don't go back maybe and look at stuff you really need, or read older books and stuff. And there's so much classic information out there about tennis, about life, about everything, right? So I think that's great that
Yeah.
you have a resource that's kind of more a bit tailored towards the user, so they don't have to
Yeah.
go and search for everything, right?
Yeah, we have like, I remember having like just some articles. I mean, because back in the day, like that's what people would do. Like there's like some interviews with Pete Sampras or with Pam Shriver talking about like how to hit a Martina Navratilova, how to hit a volley, stuff like that. That used to be just in blogs, right? Like you just go into blogs and you have like the little like a picture and then another picture and another picture, right? Like it's kind of the old school way of doing it, but there is actually a good amount of stuff out there, from back in the day that like is definitely getting lost. So we've been able to like curate that as well and throw it in there. Sometimes, you're sitting the idea is for you to be able to, improve anywhere you are, right? You're sitting in your subway going to work, and you get a couple action items that you can read an article, you can watch a video real quickly, and sort of take that information in, and maybe like it sits with you during that day. It's like, oh, that was an interesting thing, and even during work, and you're able to process that a little bit better instead of just like content. So that's kind of the idea, and it's been a nice successful launch. We have like a good amount of people in there already, and just trying to get more and more of you to we got some tennis nerd content in there for sure, and there's a lot of stuff. We've gotten like a lot of the new creators, but the older creators there as well, like stuff that has been out there for 10-12 years on YouTube, and that still holds true. So there's some good stuff, and it eliminates a little bit your need to search for so much. We do that for you.
That's great. No, I wish you all the best, and I'll definitely keep doing my action points. Already started. No, and I think it's important to have like also maybe a source that's not feeling like an endless scroll. With like you have the Instagram, people are doom scrolling or whatever it's called. When I can do it sometimes, and I really hate myself when I do it. And I'm like, I'm working on something. Maybe a video is being exported in Final Cut. And then I'm like, all right, instead of doing something productive, I'm like, okay, let me scroll Instagram. It's just what am I doing? Like, what is this?
Yeah.
I could be going up stretching or doing something else, or just preparing a thumbnail, or, but you take that mental break, and then you lose part of your, like part of your like efficiency and process, but also like it's kind of, you feel like you get lost in this weird world. Like I don't do it for maybe 1 hour, at like 5-10 minutes, but still it's a lost time.
So
Right?
yeah, it is. I try to give myself like a late Sunday afternoon to go on reels and just scroll and see what's up, but like trying during the week, it's tough. I kind of grew up on this. It's kind of an addiction anyways, and I try not to have like the app on my phone and all the time, especially between. I'm more on Twitter than I'm on Instagram, because Instagram can really hook me, and Twitter, at least I can get like, I get the latest highlights. If you can curate Twitter to what you really want to see, I think it's a good thing, because then it's like the quickest to see a highlight, or the quickest to see a result or something like that. Even in other sports, but in general, it's so easy to get lost in there. So if you're utilizing this new way of learning to actually learn, I think like with MPROOV, we can make that a little bit less like, again, doom scrolling and a ton of information coming blasting you in the face, and you just don't know exactly what it really helps and what it's just content. Because again, like we said before, I think there's a lot of people who are just basically like regurgitating things that coaches have said for many years, and they're new into the space, and they don't really like play 10. I mean, I've seen a couple people like doing coaching that I was like, whoa, like that's crazy. Like I don't think you're a, a 4.0 level and or 3.5 level, and you're out here like telling people what to do. And I just find that to be a little bit crazy. So again, I can't be the police on that, but I can at least improve. I can cut that away, and you're not going to get that content.
No, I think it's tricky because I mean misinformation is everywhere, so you have to be a bit of savvy to actually understand and be a bit, question things a bit and say, okay, is this actually a trusted source? Whether it's medical information or tennis information or learning how to chip in a bunker, stuff like
I
that. So
mean,
you have to kind of like be smart enough to filter it out, and that puts extra challenges on people today than it was maybe before, where you didn't have that like overload of information. You just you had the TV. Okay, you got one source of information, but it's different.
exactly. It's tough. I mean, we're doing tennis. It's not that like crazy, right? But if someone is, pushing a diet and someone's pushing something that can really affect people's health, and they have no idea what they're doing, it can be a dangerous thing. So, that's why I avoid talking about fitness and dieting and things like that, because I'm not a specialist in that. I know what works for me, in terms of those things, what to eat and what to maybe like do fitness, and I see stuff online that I'm like, this is really good, like footwork stuff and stuff like that. But in general, I'm not gonna, talk about lifting weights and things like that, because that's just not like my specialty. I'm the one people getting hurt, So it's a tricky thing. But again, if you stay in your lane that way, and you know what you're an expert on, and an expert on whatever that means, but you try to, that's what we're trying to do with improv. Just kind of keep it, keep everything a little bit more things that I believe, things that Clay and I believe. Basically, we're both players that have gone through basically all the levels and have to figure that out. So some good stuff in there.
Cool, man. Best of luck. So, last question here, but how do you divide all this stuff up? Like, so you YouTube, you're playing semi-competitively at the moment, probably increasing that. Your My Tennis HQ website as well. You have MPROOV now. You have a dog and your girlfriend, and you need to keep fit and you need to eat right. So how do you manage? How is your like day and weeks look like?
A lot of the eating healthy is I can attribute it to my girlfriend. She's a great cook. So she's been doing a great job with that. Obviously helping with the dogs. We have two dogs. That part has been, she's been doing a tremendous job. And, obviously I help as much as I can to exercise them. But in general, my life, yeah, it's a bit busy, but in a way, like I like that. I like staying busy. A week nowadays, I'm trying to train a little bit more fitness wise. Like, I actually just before this, I was doing like an incline walk on the Peloton for like 45 minutes. I don't like running. I never liked running for no reason, like just for running. I can do it. Like I love playing sports. I love doing that stuff. The fitness side of tennis was always my Achilles heel, not because I wasn't fit, but because I think I'm genetically kind of gifted that way, that I'm fit. I'm not very like hurt. But obviously when you're a pro athlete, you have to be like on a different level. So that part is something that I'm going back to: gym, recovery, like all that stuff. Trying to actually hit like 3 to 4 times a week nowadays, and then do some coaching as well on the side. So the weeks are busy. I have a few lessons later today, had some lessons yesterday, have some lessons tomorrow. Editing vlogs. It's just time management, man. Like I finish here, I'll probably, take a little break and start like editing, a video, and later in the day have my lessons. But I also just give myself sort of like a hard stop every kind of night, like 6:30, 7. Like I'm not a night guy. Like I don't work well at night. I don't edit at night. I don't do anything like that at night. I'm really like fried by the night. Even when I was in school, I wasn't like the all-nighter guy. Like I wake up early to study, but I won't like, go to bed at 4 in the morning. So it's just, I think that allows me to like stay fresh, like give that hard, like sort of like 6:30, 7 o'clock, like not looking at emails or doing anything else, reset, next day, go back at it. So, I enjoy myself. I enjoy routines when I'm not in LA. Like that's something that I struggle with when I'm traveling with Marcos and stuff. The routine gets a little like messed up. You're not in your own time. So like when I'm here, I try to make it's my own time. I can work the way I want to work, and I'm fortunate that I'm not really, a 9 to 5 guy. So I can do, whatever. If I want to do 7 to 2 or later, doesn't matter. I can do whatever. So yeah, it's been good. It's busy, but it's good, and hopefully it stays busy. I like busy.
That's good. And now you have to learn the virtual drums as well.
I know. I mean, I have to figure that out. And I need to find a way that it's not going to be very loud. That's the problem. So, just finding that. But I think that's the reason I kind of want to do it is more because I know I'm going to suck at it. And I'm typically I pick up things quickly, especially if it's sports. But outside of that, I don't really. So like it's something that it would be like, oh, I'm going to be shit at this for a while, and let's see if I can just kind of stick with it. So.
Yeah, I like it.
Should
I
be
like
fun.
it. I think it's always good to challenge yourself, like go out of the comfort
Yeah.
zone. Like that's really important in life. So I think that's the way to do it. Your girlfriend might think it's not the best
Oh
idea
yeah.
ever, but we'll see.
I have to be in the garage and corner somewhere, but it'll be all right. It'll be all right.
Yeah, of course, man. Well, nice talking to you as always, and we'll keep in touch. Really enjoyed the podcast, and whenever you want to come on to shoot the shit, I'm here. So it's always
I
fun to
love it.
talking.
I love it. Great talking, man. It's always good to see you. Good to have this chat, and hopefully everyone enjoys this conversation.
Yeah, yeah, they will. They love Karue. I know that. I know that. Muito obrigado, everyone.
All right. Cheers, everyone.